Good morning, everyone. How y'all doing today? Welcome to another episode of Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. Thank you for joining me. This is episode 126 of Hockey on the Spot. And another series has come to an end. The Western Conference Finals are officially over. The Los Angeles Kings have officially defeated the Chicago Blackhawks in Game 7 in what was a classic series for sure. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Kings. They will go to the Stanley Cup Finals for the second time in 3 years, where they will face off against the New York Rangers. But before we get more into that, there was an update I wanted to bring up in the last video that I forgot to bring up, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know this by now. But Barry Trotz is now officially the new head coach of the Washington Capitals. And I think this is a very interesting transaction. Trotz obviously has spent his entire career in Nashville. They now have Peter Laviolette. And for Barry Trotz, he is a defensive-minded coach, coaching an offensive-minded team. He replaces Adam Oates, and it's going to be interesting to see the kind of relationship that he's going to have with Alex Ovechkin, an offensive player. He hopes to develop. His goal is to develop a good relationship with Ovi and turn him into a two-way player. I, for one, am an Ovechkin fan, so I hope that it works out. I really do, and I hope Ovechkin can find a better game under Barry Trotz and fix his plus-minus issues. So with that being said, now we're going to go right into the series here. Our Western Conference Finals series in review. Once again, the Los Angeles Kings went on to defeat the Chicago Blackhawks in 7 games. And it didn't come easy at all for the Kings. Obviously, it was a rematch from last year's Western Conference Finals, and the Blackhawks won that series in 5 games. This would mark the 3rd time in Gen overall that they would play the Kings in the playoffs, with the Blackhawks winning the previous 2 meetings. And, of course, a series where they would look to remain undefeated against a California opponent. They had defeated the Kings twice previously, and they defeated the San Jose Sharks in 2010. 3rd meeting with the LA Kings, and let's break down the series now. Game 1 started off good for the Blackhawks. They went on to win Game 1 in their own building by a final score of 3-1. 3-1. And that was probably the Blackhawks' overall best game of that series, and it was really the only real good performance shown by Corey Crawford. Shown by Corey Crawford. So the rest of the series, he really did not play well. Game 2 in Chicago, the Blackhawks start off well with a 2-0 lead until Jeff Carter's hat trick would lead the Kings to a 6-2 victory in Game 2 to tie up the series, and it was pretty much all Kings from there. Game 3 in LA, a 4-3 victory for the Kings, and then the Kings would also go on to win Game 4 at home by a final score of 5-2. Kings then held a 3-1 series lead over the Blackhawks, a series that they almost blew. They came this close to blowing. After that, the Blackhawks would form a new line of Brandon Saad, Patrick Kane, and Andrew Shaw, and that line would power the Hawks to tie the series. Game 5 in Chicago goes to double overtime. Michael Handzus goes on to score the double overtime winner to keep the Blackhawks season alive. But in that game, Brandon Saad, a goal and 2 assists, 7 shots, and 4 assists, and 5 shots for Patrick Kane. Unreal. Let's see what Andrew Shaw did in that game. What was a high-shooting game. Andrew Shaw had 2 assists and only 3 shots on goal, but 8 hits in that game, which would, of course, match Dustin Brown's. There was a lot of hitting in that game. And Brian Bickle had 8 hits in that game as well. Wow, this was just a high profile, probably the highlight game of the series as far offensively and hitting wise. Then Game 6 back to LA. Patrick Kane pretty much took the team on his back in that game. And game number 6, the Blackhawks do manage to come back and tie the series with a 4-3 win. Again, Patrick Kane just handled the team on his back there. So then Game 7 back in Chicago, which was last night. Really intense performance, but a rough night for the goaltenders, especially Corey Crawford. The Blackhawks had the lead 3 different times in the game. They had a 2-0 lead, followed by a 3, which the Kings came back to tie. They had a 3-2 lead, which the Kings came back to tie. And they also had a 4-3 lead, which the Kings came back to tie. Oh, yeah, and congratulations to Justin Williams, by the way. He would go on to score his 7th career Game 7 goal, as well as his 7th career Game 7 assist, breaking Doug Gilmour's record for most points in Game 7s in career. He's played 7 Game 7s. He has 7 goals and 7 assists, which is 14 points. Justin Williams, just a Game 7 superstar, and, just a lot to be proud of for him. He would have the assist on the overtime winning goal, very weird kind of goal. Alec Martinez would get credited with the overtime goal on a shot that would go off of Nick Leddy. Justin Williams and Matt Green drawing the assists. Alec Martinez would be the game's #1 star. But how about, and the Kings with that Game 7 win would also become the first team in NHL history to win 3 straight Game 7s and win 3 straight Game 7s on the road. So, congratulations to the Los Angeles Kings. There will not be a 4th road Game 7, however, because they will have home ice advantage in the Stanley Cup Finals. So if there is a Game 7, it will be at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. So, congrats to the Los Angeles Kings on a big 7-game series victory over the Hawks, and it marks the first time that the Hawks lose to a California team in the playoffs. Now, as we look at it, let's now discuss why the Kings managed to win this series. Reason number 1, and probably the most important reason, is their depth. Their depth is just among the best in the league, especially at center when you consider Anze Kopitar, Jeff Carter, Mike Richards, lots of depth up at center. Just crazy depth at center. As we actually take a look here at just their overall team again. Richards, Kopitar, Trevor Lewis is a center. Tyler Toffoli can play center. Jarrett Stoll is another one. I forgot about him. He is their key man when it comes to winning faceoffs. They have guys that can play center and wing. Dustin Brown on the wing. Marian Gaborik, who continues his goal scoring in the playoffs. Let's see how he did in the series overall. He had looks like 3 goals in the series. Yeah, he had 3 goals in this series against the Chicago Blackhawks. He continues his tremendous goal scoring, and Anze Kopitar continues his tremendous point scoring. He's a guy who could be up. These are 2 guys who could both be up for the Conn Smythe Trophy. Jeff Carter has been tremendous as well. So the Kings, they're just deadly right now. And then we look at their defense group. Just their defense group is just something beyond belief. Matt Green, Jake Muzzin, Drew Doughty, Slava Voinov, Alec Martinez, Willie Mitchell. They also got a couple guys who are not in the lineup. Robin Regeer, who would traditionally be in the lineup if not for injury, and Jeff Schultz, who played really well in the opportunity he was given. And then they also got young Braden McNabb, who's going to be a good defenseman in the future. So they have a lot. The Kings just so much depth on defense, and then of course in goal you can't forget about Jonathan Quick. This depth that the Kings have is they're just loaded. and they can shut down pretty much anybody. They can know that they can play with anyone. They're kind of like a dynasty team right now. They've made it to 3 straight Western Conference Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals 2 of the 3 times, and they're looking like a dynasty team right now, or the next closest thing to a dynasty team. So anyway, another reason why the Kings would go on to win was because of their hard work ethic and their ability to get the goals on the board. To just get the goals on the board. Marian Gaborik, Andrei Kopitar, as I mentioned before, just two players who have just been dominant throughout these whole playoffs, and they were no less dominant in this series. So just a lot for the Kings to be proud of. And I think another reason why they would win this series too is that early 3-1 series jump. They had the jump on the Blackhawks. I think if the Hawks win any one of game 2, 3, or 4, they win this series. So the Kings managing, even though they blew the lead, the fact that they won those games was big for them. And then, of course, just getting the big goals when they needed to. Drew Doughty had a tremendous series. This is probably his best series of the playoffs by far. A lot. He played very, very well. He's played very, very well. And then Jonathan Quick coming up big when he's needed to. He's just been so good throughout these whole playoffs. Another guy who could be up for the Conn Smythe Trophy. He's already got one on his resume. He looks to add another, which would mark, if he wins, that would mark 4 straight years in which an American has won the Conn Smythe. But yeah, just a lot to look forward to for LA right now. They're back in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think another reason why they won too is because they were just so well-rounded. Even though the Hawks had a little bit more Stanley Cup experience than the Kings, I think the Kings were a better, well-rounded team. They had a lot more depth, and And one thing that they have that the Hawks really do not have, and have not had all season, it was a legit second-line center. They really did not have that. They really do not have that, and it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. That's something they're going to definitely look into in the offseason. But the Kings, they have so many center guys who can play center, and so many guys that can do it really well. So there you go. There you have it with the LA Kings. Congratulations to them. They move on to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they will take on the New York Rangers. Game 1 will be on Wednesday, June 4th, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Game 1 at the Staples Center. Now, the reasons why the Chicago Blackhawks lost the series. Number 1, the poor and very mediocre, the poor play in net by Corey Crawford. He did not have a good series by any means. He had a good game 1, but that was about it. That was his best game of the series, and after that, you saw he would let up in at least 3 goals a game in the series. He did not have a good series. He did not look sharp at all, and as shown in Game 7, he's let in a lot of bad bounces all series long. He did not hold down the fort when called upon. Crawford, one of the more inconsistent goaltenders in the league, sad to say, but it's true. He's very good when he's on his game. When he's on his game, he's one of the best, but when he's off his game, he is letting in goals left and right. And unfortunately, in Game 7, when they really needed him to be at his best the most, he was not. So, very rough series for Corey Crawford, indeed. Also, the defense. Very, very poor series by the defense for the Chicago Blackhawks. The inconsistency on the blue line, very rough. another reason why, which could also lead into another reason why Corey Crawford played so bad. He, had no support by his defense. Duncan Keith, rough series for him. Brent Seabrook, rough series for him. And Brent Seabrook knows he can be better. It was just a rough series in general for all of them. Nicholas Chalmerson was not good. Nick Leddy, not good. Johnny Oduya, Michael Roosevelt, you name it. These guys were not good. They had 7 defensemen dressed in a lot of the games as well. Sheldon Brookbank played a couple of games. He really didn't play that well either. So just very inconsistent by the defense of the Chicago Blackhawks in this series. They got blown away by the Kings' power forwards. The Kings have lots of players, especially Anze Kopitar, who have that ability to use their body to power their way through the defense and do it with some decent-sized speed. And the Blackhawks, they are a faster team for sure. However, they just could not. The Kings' defense shut them down, and they could not get any support. They just could not. And up until Game 5, they got no support from, their top players. It wasn't until they created that line of Patrick Kane, Brandon Saad, and Andrew Shaw that they really started to come alive. And that was their best line throughout the final 3 games for sure. Patrick Sharp, he had a rough series. Very good in Game 7, but before that, just a rough series for him. So yeah, there you go with that. Another reason for the Blackhawks, their power play just has not been good all postseason long, and it was no different in this series. It was pretty decent in Game 7. They managed to get in 2 power play goals, but in general, their power play just was not good in this series. They let in a few power play goals and took a lot of undisciplined, from what I could gather, took a lot of pretty bad penalties at times. They let, the Kings get to them and ruin their psyche. And so the Blackhawks, they just did not look like the team from last year, that's for sure. They did not look like they were really in that series a lot of the time. But the main issue, the signature issue, without a doubt, has to be the inconsistency in goal and the inconsistency on defense. The defense was not good, and Corey Crawford was not good. The forwards were okay, but it was mostly their lower line players that were really getting it done in the series. And Jonathan Taves, I guess, had a very good series. Patrick Kane came alive in games 5 and 6. But before that, he was just completely shut down. And for the Blackhawks, it is a little disappointing. They really thought that they had the potential to be the first team since the Detroit Red Wings to repeat as champions. And I really did believe that they had the potential too. I thought that they were going to win that series. I really did, because they do have more cup veterans on their team. But the Kings, they're probably just a little bit older, though. They have a bit of an older team, and that's why they managed to win. They had a lot of guys who were just very good throughout the whole series, and Dustin Brown is proving himself to be one of the best captains in the NHL. So congratulations once again to the Los Angeles Kings as they win the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl and go on to the Cup Finals. So, now with the Chicago Blackhawks, a lot of questions that they're going to be asking themselves over the offseason and a lot to be answered. The biggest question of all, obviously revolves around what's going to happen with their free agents. Well, the good news is for the Blackhawks, they do not have a whole lot to worry about this year. A lot of their free agents really are not really that noticeable. Michael Handzus and Peter Regan are their only 2 unrestricted free agents up front. Michael Handzus, he's 36 years of age, so who knows if he'll be back in the NHL, and if he is, who knows if he'll be with the Hawks or with another team. I could see the Hawks potentially signing him to another 1-year deal, maybe even a 2-year deal, and maybe taking a role as a fourth-line center. But who knows, I think Hanzus has been a very valuable player for them for the past year and a half. But he is 36 years of age, going on 37. And, he's not getting any younger, and that's just it. He's really not getting any younger. He will be 37 next March, actually. Well, actually, he is 37 now. He'll be 38 next March. So he's 37 years of age. He probably has one more year left in him, I think. But I don't think it would be with the Blackhawks. I think the Blackhawks might try to go in a different direction. I think he can sign with the Hawks. I'm not, taking away that option from him. I'm not saying that it's impossible, and I'm not saying they're absolutely not going to. But I think he might try to embrace a new challenge. He might have to embrace a new challenge as the Hawks look to get younger. They got a good youngster in Jeremy Morin coming up, and they have a lot of high expectations for him. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. And then, of course, you got Peter Regan, who they acquired, prior to the trade deadline from the New York Islanders. And you know what? He was very good when he came over from the Islanders. He became a key penalty killer for them and, a key two-way player for them, pretty much filling the void left behind by Michael Frolik when he left, when they traded him. So I think Peter Regan going back to the Blackhawks is a very strong possibility. I think they're going to be looking into Peter Regan. They're probably going to try to maybe negotiate a little something with him and maybe try to get him back on board. And then on defense, Sheldon Brookbank is their only unrestricted free agent defenseman, and really just their only free agent defenseman in general. He probably will not be back, as the Hawks are pretty much set on their blue line. And they got David Rundblad coming up anyway, and David Rundblad is going to be a very good player for them. So Sheldon Brookbank, in my opinion, is most definitely a gonzo. He's 32 years of age. And his value is just not great, so he'll embrace a new challenge elsewhere. In goal, they have Nikolai Habibulin, who is their backup goaltender before suffering a season-ending injury. He's 40 years of age. He definitely will not be back in Chicago. In fact, more likely than not, Nikolai Habibulin will go on to announce his retirement from the NHL, so he will not be back. He will not be back. In the minors, they have Jason LaBarbera and Brad Mills, two unrestricted free agents. Those guys probably will not be back, or at least Jason LaBarbera won't. They may sign Brad Mills. Who knows? Brian Connolly, a young prospect defenseman. He's 27 years old, so we'll see what they do with him. And then they also have Pierre-Marc Bouchard down there, who they also got from the New York Islanders. They're most definitely going to let him go. He did not play one single game when he came over to the Blackhawks from the Islanders. So, my opinion, Pierre-Marc Bouchard is out. He's gone. He's 29 years of age, and his NHL value has just gone so down because of his injuries. So he is done, I think. Pierre-Marc Bouchard is out of Chicago. He may even not. Maybe he may have to be forced to retire early. His mind is aging faster than his body. So, we'll see how long he has. And then as far as restricted free agents go, Ben Smith and Jeremy Morin. I talked about Jeremy Morin. They have high expectations for him, so you could bet on it that he's going to be signed. And Ben Smith is becoming a good player for them, a good depth player for them, and so they'll most definitely give him a contract. And then their backup goaltender, Antti Ranta, he's 24 years of age. They're definitely going to sign him. They think he's a very good backup goaltender. And I'm pretty sure, if I recall, he had a very good rookie season. He came up and played well when called upon. And especially his biggest test came when Corey Crawford got hurt earlier in the year. Corey Crawford did go down with an injury earlier in the year, and Antti Ranta had to step in as the starter for a little while when both he and Habibulin. And Antti Ranta played very well. 13 wins, 5 losses, 4 overtime losses. So it's overall 13-9 record, a 271 goals against average, and an 897 save percentage. So not bad numbers. Well, the save percentage could be better, and the goals against was pretty good. He started in 22 games, and an undrafted free agent out of Finland. They definitely will look to sign him. He's definitely going to get signed. He is definitely going to get signed. He is a restricted free agent, and he's going to be a key backup goaltender for them in the future. And then they have a bunch of restricted free agents in the minors. Terry Broadhurst, who they like. They'll probably sign him. Theo Peckham, Brian Froese. He's a guy who has some pretty good expectations. David Gilbert, Philip Lefevre. I don't know how to pronounce that name, actually. So these are some good prospects. But really, I think, as far as the Blackhawks offseason goes, it really isn't going to revolve around the restricted and unrestricted free agents this year, but really who's going to be unrestricted free agents the following year. Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, their 2 star players, are both unrestricted free agents coming up in 2015-16. They both have 1 year remaining on their contracts, and you can bet your butt on it that they're going to try to get those 2 players signed. They're going to try to get those 2 players signed, and those are their 2 core players, the players that their franchise revolves around now, or at the very least, Jonathan Toews. I think they feel maybe a little more valuable as an all-around player than Patrick Kane. They're definitely going to try to get him signed up. Brandon Saad and Marcus Kruger are restricted free agents, as is Joachim Nordstrom, a good young rookie. They're going to try to get those 3 to extensions. Nick Leddy, they may sign to an extension. David Rundblad. They have Johnny Oduya and Michael Roosevelt as unrestricted free agents in 2015-16. They may let those guys go, or at the very least, Michael Roosevelt. He's 34 years of age. Johnny Oduya, 31. They may keep Oduya, but they'll probably let Roosevelt go. We'll see, though. We don't have to worry about that, obviously, for a whole nother year. But the one thing, of course, the only 2 players on this team that they're going to be worrying about now, and not when the time comes, are going to be Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. They are going to try to work out large contract extensions for those 2 players to stay in Chicago for a very long time. They want those guys to become franchise players. And Patrick Kane, very popular player in Chicago as well. So is Jonathan Toews. He's their leader. He's the guy holding the mantle for them. They're gonna try to bring those 2 back to Chicago for a long time. They're gonna try to get those guys signed to 8-year extensions or even 7-year extensions. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be really wild. They're not gonna let those 2 out of their hands that easily. That's what this whole offseason is gonna be about. And getting those 2 signed up to contract extensions. Though that's gonna be key for the Chicago Blackhawks. And with all that being said, tough break for the Blackhawks. Too bad they couldn't repeat as champions. They're going to definitely look into next year to see what they can do. And once again, congratulations to the Los Angeles Kings. They defeat the Chicago Blackhawks in 7 games. Game 7 overtime classic. Alec Martinez, the overtime winner. They will move on to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they will take on the New York Rangers, winners of the Prince of Wales Trophy. The New York Rangers. Game 1. Very exciting time coming up, folks. The Stanley Cup Finals is just beyond the horizon. Game 1 will be held at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. Wednesday, June 4th, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be very, very exciting to watch. Very exciting to watch. I'm pumped up, very excited. The Stanley Cup Finals, always an exciting time in hockey. It's going to be unbelievable. It's going to be unbelievable to watch, and it's going to be very exciting. A duel between two of the top goaltenders in the NHL, Jonathan Quick and Henrik Lundqvist. It's going to be very exciting. So, that's going to pretty much do it for this video. I am going to be doing another video either tomorrow or Wednesday, and that video will be a preview of the Stanley Cup Finals, what to expect, and who I think will win that series, and in how many games. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. It is going to be a fun time, and I'm excited. Let's hope for the best. Let's take these couple days to just breathe and think about what's coming and get to the Stanley Cup Finals here. And so, yeah, I'll do another video tomorrow or Wednesday, Stanley Cup Final preview, and then again, Game 1 Wednesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That's June 4th, that being held at the Staples Center. So with that being said, that'll do it for episode 126 of Hockey on the Spot. This has been Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. Thank you guys for joining me today. I will see you all again within either tomorrow or Wednesday before the game. Thank you all, and have a great day.